There are certain rituals that hold marriages together, small acts of habit that thread ordinary days into a semblance of a life. For me and Emily, it was Sunday mornings. Pancakes, scrambled eggs, her coffee with just the right amount of oat milk and cinnamon. No alarms, no rushing to work, just a slow dance of domesticity. I prided myself on those breakfasts. I wasn't much of a chef, but Emily always said my pancakes were the best she'd ever tasted. Said it with a smile that lit up her whole face, the kind of smile you chase for days after. That Sunday started like any other. The kitchen filled with the smells of frying bacon and brewing coffee. Outside, the world was waking up lazy under a warm spring sun. I wore my battered college sweatshirt, and she came down in one of my shirts, her hair tied up, face scrubbed clean, beautiful in the way only real love can make you notice. "Smells amazing," she said, sliding onto a stool at the kitchen island. She yawned, covering her mouth like a sleepy little kid. I loved her then. I loved her always. I poured her coffee, watching her from the corner of my eye. There was something about the way she scrolled on her phone that morning. Nothing obvious, just tension, a quickness in her thumb, a flicker of nerves when I looked over. "Work again?" I asked casually. She smiled without looking up. "Yeah, Karen's on a tear. Crisis mode as usual." Karen, her boss, a name I'd heard more times than I could count. If Karen wasn't ruining Emily's weekend, it was a team, some nebulous group of overworked marketers chasing impossible deadlines. I slid a plate in front of her, pancakes stacked high, butter melting into little golden pools. She murmured a thank you and picked up her fork with her phone still in hand. Her attention split, her laughter forced. I told myself it was work stress. Everyone was burnt out these days. I had my own deadlines, my own pressures. We were just passing each other like ships lately, like every other couple trying to survive. Still, later, while she showered, I tidied up the kitchen. Her phone buzzed where she left it on the counter. Face down, screen lighting up. I don't know why I noticed it. I don't know why I walked over. It could have been an email, a Slack notification, a spam call. But it wasn't. It was a name I didn't recognize. Just one word. "Can't stop thinking about you." I froze, a cold needle of doubt threading through my chest. Maybe it was innocent. An old friend. A joke. I left the phone untouched. I wasn't the jealous type. We had trust. That was the foundation we'd built everything on. When she came back downstairs, hair damp, smelling like vanilla and soap, I didn't say anything. She kissed my cheek, thanked me for breakfast again, and slipped out the door, saying she needed to catch up at the office. I watched her car pull away, a hollow ache blooming under my ribs. By the time night fell, I convinced myself it was nothing. Work stress. Karen. Deadlines. I told myself what every man tells himself when he feels the ground beginning to shift under his feet. There's nothing wrong. You're imagining things. Don't be paranoid. Don't be that guy. But that night, as I lay in bed alone, the other side cold, Emily texting she was working late again, I couldn't stop replaying the name on that screen. I didn't know it then, but the fabric of my life had already started unraveling. And soon, it wouldn't be just breakfast that was ruined. It would be everything. The week following that Sunday was a slow, gnawing burn. Nothing dramatic. No screaming matches. No slammed doors. Just distance. Like the quiet creak of a floorboard in a supposedly empty house. Emily kept her routines. Morning coffee, off to work, late returns, quick kisses that barely grazed my cheek. She talked less, laughed even less than that. Her smiles felt rehearsed, her apologies automatic. Monday night. She didn't come home until after 11 p.m. She mumbled something about last-minute changes and Karen being a nightmare, her eyes already glazing over as she shuffled upstairs. I followed her, forcing myself to believe her words, even though that name on her phone still carved into the back of my mind like a scar. By Wednesday, I noticed her phone never left her side. She'd take it with her to the bathroom, keep it clutched in her hand even while brushing her teeth. The woman who used to toss her phone onto the nightstand with reckless abandon now guarded it like a second heart. I didn't snoop. Not yet. I told myself it was wrong. That trust meant something. But doubts are like termites. They gnaw away at the beams holding everything up until one day, the roof caves in. Thursday brought an odd new development. Emily got home earlier than usual, around 7 p.m., but instead of flopping on the couch and complaining about Karen, she looked guilty, fidgety, like she was carrying a secret too heavy for her to balance. "Hey," she said, voice pitched too high, "let's order Thai food tonight." My treat. Emily hated Thai food. "You sure?" I asked, testing the waters. "Yeah, change is good, right?" She forced a laugh that scraped my nerves raw. The night passed with a surreal kind of ease. We ate dinner while half watching a bad sitcom. She even suggested we open a bottle of wine. But under the surface, tension hummed like a wire stretched too tight. At one point, she laughed at something the TV character said, an honest, rich laugh I hadn't heard in months, and my heart lurched. For a moment, I wanted to believe we were okay, until her phone buzzed, and she practically dove for it. I caught a glimpse of the screen, just a flash, but enough to see a new name, different from Sunday, different from Can't Stop Thinking About You. This time it was T, just a single initial. She giggled at whatever message she read, biting her lip like a teenager. My gut twisted so violently I had to excuse myself to the kitchen. I gripped the counter, white-knuckled, breathing through my nose like I was about to hurl. I told myself, again, that maybe it was work-related, maybe it was Karen, maybe it was some harmless group chat, but the pieces weren't fitting together anymore. Friday was worse. Emily left early for a morning meeting. She kissed me goodbye absent-mindedly, her lips brushing the air near my cheek. I called her office around noon, just to hear her voice. Maybe prove to myself that I was still part of her life. "Hi, this is Brittany. Emily is out for the day, company off-site. Can I take a message? Out for the day. Off-site. No mention of meetings. No sign of Karen." I thanked Brittany, hung up, and sat there staring at the kitchen wall for a long time. Something was happening, something real, but still I did nothing. Saturday came. Another beautiful spring day. Emily suggested we get some fresh air together, a hike in the hills, something we hadn't done since last year. It was almost convincing. She held my hand, laughed at my bad jokes, even kissed me deeply at the summit while the wind tangled her hair. Maybe, I thought, maybe we're clawing our way back. But as we descended the trail, I saw her again, stealing glances at her phone, smiling at it, the kind of smile she used to save for me. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat alone on the porch. The crickets chirped, the cool breeze teased the edge of summer, and I realized I was living with a ghost, not the kind that knocks pictures off the walls or moans in the night, the kind that smiles and kisses you and says, "I love you," out of habit while their heart belongs somewhere, someone else. The next morning, I made her breakfast again. Pancakes, scrambled eggs, coffee with oat milk and cinnamon. She smiled, thanked me, kissed my forehead, then went to the living room with her phone. I stayed at the sink, washing dishes, hands moving automatically. Behind me, I heard the faint click of her camera shutter. Curious, I turned my head just enough to catch a reflection in the microwave door. There she was, posing, smiling, tilting her head just so, sending a selfie to T. I turned back to the sink, my stomach curdling. I couldn't do it anymore. That night, after she fell asleep, I found an old phone of mine tucked away in a drawer. I knew enough to jailbreak it, install tracking software. Something small, undetectable. It felt wrong. It felt dirty. But not as dirty as the sick feeling eating me alive. By dawn, I had set it up. By Monday, I'd see everything. Her messages, her calls, her photos. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but I knew one thing. Once I saw it, there'd be no coming back. No more doubt. No more pretending. Just truth. And once you have the truth, you can't unsee it. You can't undo it. You can only live with it, or burn everything down. The Monday the tracker kicked in, I felt like a spy in my own house. I watched Emily move around the kitchen, oblivious. She packed her laptop, adjusted her hair in the mirror, kissed me goodbye on autopilot. Her lips barely brushed my skin. As soon as the door closed behind her, I grabbed my phone. The mirror data rolled in with brutal efficiency. Call logs, texts, location. She wasn't heading downtown like she said. She was driving west toward Fairview, a small artsy district filled with boutique shops, cafes, and boutique hotels. My stomach dropped. I stared at the blue, moving steadily away from our home. Still, a part of me, the stupid, hopeful part, clung to innocence. Maybe she had a client meeting. Maybe she needed a coffee before work. Maybe, but then the first picture came through. A snapshot from her phone camera, a mirror selfie. Tight jeans, a new white blouse I'd never seen before, hair let down in soft waves. She looked radiant, alive in a way she hadn't around me in months. The caption below read, "Can't wait to see you." Sent to T. I put the phone down, trembling. For the rest of the morning, I wandered the house like a ghost. I couldn't work, couldn't eat, just floated from room to room. Every creak of the floorboards a mockery of the silence between us. When she returned that night, smiling, relaxed, full of meaningless chatter about meetings and presentations, I smiled back, played my part. Inside, though, I was setting fire to everything we'd built. Over the next few days, the evidence piled up. Photos of hotel rooms, snippets of conversations. Miss you already. Thinking about last night. You make me feel alive. Each message a nail in the coffin of our marriage. But the most chilling discovery came Thursday. Emily had sent a picture of the breakfast I had made her. Perfect pancakes, steaming coffee, with a caption that made me see red. Best start to a naughty day. To T. She hadn't just betrayed me in body. She had made me part of her game. I was the opening act before she slipped into another man's arms. I sat on the edge of the bed that night, staring at her sleeping form, her breathing slow, her face innocent in sleep. I wondered if she dreamed about him. If, when she smiled in her sleep, it was for T. Rage boiled inside me, but also something colder, something sharp. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. That would be too easy for her. No, she was going to reveal herself. And when she did, she wouldn't even realize she was doing it. Friday, I took the day off work. Told Emily I had meetings downtown. Instead, I drove across the city, renting a car so she wouldn't recognize mine. I parked outside her office building, blending into the flow of cars and foot traffic. At noon, she walked out not alone. T was real. He was tall, athletic, too polished for my liking. A sharp blue suit, expensive haircut. He looked like the kind of guy who believed he deserved anything he wanted. They didn't touch, not obviously, but their body language, the lean in, the private smiles, it screamed intimacy. They disappeared into a narrow alley lined with coffee shops. I followed at a safe distance. Saw them slip into a side door of a boutique hotel. Just like that. Gone. I stood there on the sidewalk, hands in my jacket pockets, the world spinning around me. Couple strolled by, laughing, holding hands. College kids biked past carefree. The air smelled of roasted coffee and rain on asphalt. I realized then that I hadn't lost her. Not really. The woman I loved, the woman who loved me, had disappeared long ago. In her place was a stranger, and she had chosen her side. I turned and walked back to the car, my mind clear for the first time in weeks. That night, I made dinner. Lasagna, garlic bread, her favorite Pinot Noir. Emily came home flushed and glowing, apologizing for being late. "Karen," she said breathlessly, tossing her purse down. "She's really riding me this week." I smiled, kissed her cheek, handed her a glass of wine. "Rough week deserves a nice night," I said. She smiled, touched, maybe even guilty, but she buried it quickly. We ate together, and for a while, it almost felt normal. Almost. But as she laughed at my jokes, touched my hand lightly, I realized something chilling. She was good at this. Better than I had ever imagined. The woman sitting across from me wasn't torn, wasn't conflicted. She was practiced, polished, a liar in a silk dress. And me? I was done playing the fool. Saturday morning. The city breathed with early spring energy. Joggers in park, kids chasing kites, street vendors setting up for weekend markets. Everything alive, buzzing, pulsing, except me. I moved through the day like a ghost, carrying a plan that had been building inside me for days. Emily wanted to play games? Fine. Two could play. I waited until she left for work. Another urgent meeting that couldn't possibly wait. As her car disappeared down the block, I sprang into action. First, I printed every screenshot I collected. Selfies, messages, GPS locations, timestamps. A sick sort of satisfaction unfurled in my chest as I watched the printer spit out page after page of her betrayal. Then I booked a room at the same boutique hotel she liked to frequent with T. Not just any room. The room directly across the hall from their favorite suite. A little digging through her mirrored GPS history had told me exactly where they liked to meet. It was almost too easy. I packed a duffel bag. Camera, tripod, audio recorder, laptop. I wasn't just confronting them. No, I was going to document them. Capture the perfect shot. The raw footage of their lives. By noon, I was checked in. By 1. The camera was set up, hidden expertly behind a fake air vent cover across my door. Train on theirs. Now all I had to do was wait. The hours crawled by. Room service delivered a club sandwich I couldn't bring myself to eat. I sat by the window, watching the world blur past below. Taxis, lovers, lives untouched by the rot-eating mine. Around 4 p.m., the first alert hit my phone. Emily's GPS moved toward the hotel. She was coming. Heart hammering. I double-checked the setup, pressed record. Settled into the armchair, out of view. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Laughter. The unmistakable chime of the elevator. I watched through the peephole. There she was. Emily. Radiant. Makeup subtle but perfect. Dress too short. Heels too high. The kind of outfit she used to reserve for our anniversaries. And next to her, T, smiling, confident. She leaned into him, whispering something that made him chuckle low in his throat. They disappeared into their room. I could hear the soft thunk of the door closing, the lock clicking. I forced myself to breathe. Every part of me wanted to kick the door down, drag them into the hallway, scream the truth into their smug, lying faces. But that wasn't the plan. Patience, evidence, retribution measured in megabytes, and heartbreak. I waited 30 minutes. Plenty of time for them to settle. Then I slipped into the hallway, camera bag slung casually over my shoulder. I knocked on their door. Once, twice, softly but insistently. Footsteps padded toward the door. A muffled, "Who is it?" I said nothing. The door cracked open, the chain still latched. Emily's face peeked out. She paled. "Room service," I said lightly, before stepping back just enough to kick the door in with all my weight. The chain snapped. The door slammed open. Emily stumbled back with a shriek. T leapt from the bed, shirtless, scrambling to grab his pants. I stepped into the room, camera already recording. "Smile," I said, voice low and lethal. Flash. Frame after frame of their horror. Emily tried to speak, tried to rush toward me, but I backed out into the hallway, slamming the door shut behind me and jamming the security latch so they couldn't follow. I walked calmly back to my room, adrenaline pounding through my veins. Inside, I transferred the footage to my laptop, backed it up to the cloud, sent copies to a private server, just in case. And then I sat back in the chair, hands shaking, heart hammering, and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was over. Or so I thought. That night, Emily came home. Alone. I heard her key in the lock, the hesitant creak of the door. I stayed at the kitchen table, sipping whiskey. She stood there in the doorway, pale, trembling, mascara smudged under her eyes. "Can we talk?" she whispered. I set down my glass. "Talk," I echoed. I leaned back, steepling my fingers. "Oh, Emily." We're way past talking. Her face crumpled. Tears slid down her cheeks. She crossed the room, dropped to her knees at my feet. "Please," she begged. "Please, just listen." I stared at her, feeling nothing. No pity, no rage, no sadness, only curiosity. Because despite everything, something didn't sit right. The man she was cheating with, there was something about him, something familiar. And as Emily sobbed at my feet, her hands clutching my jeans, the first sharp edge of a far darker truth began to cut its way into my mind. Something worse than infidelity. Something I hadn't even dared to imagine. And it was only just beginning. Emily's tears pooled on the hardwood floor as she begged, her voice cracking, her body trembling. I didn't move. I didn't touch her. I didn't even blink. Who is he? I asked quietly, my voice more calm than I felt. Emily choked on a sob. Please, it's not what you think. A bitter laugh slipped out of me before I could stop it. Not what I think. I have video footage. Emily, pictures, messages. You posing in my kitchen with my breakfast while sexting him. Her face crumbled further, her body folding into herself like she could make herself small enough to disappear. I didn't know he'd take it this far, she whispered. I leaned in, my voice dropping. Take what this far? She lifted her eyes to mine, and for the first time that night, I saw it pure terror. Not guilt, not shame, fear. And suddenly, everything shifted. This wasn't just an affair. It was something else. Who is he? I repeated. She pressed her trembling lips together. Travis. The name hit me like a gut punch. Travis, my older brother, the one who hadn't spoken to me in 6 years, the one who'd stormed out after that night, the one who swore he'd take everything from me. Memories I'd buried clawed to the surface, fists flying, words slashing like knives, a bottle smashing against a wall. You always get everything, he'd screamed at me. The girl, the family, the perfect fucking life. And now he had Emily. A slow, cold understanding unfurled in my chest. This wasn't about love. It was about revenge. A long con. Years in the making. And Emily? She was just a pawn. Or so I thought. It started innocent, she said, her voice shaking. He found me online. Said he missed you. Wanted to make amends. He'd message me little things. Stories about you two growing up. How proud he was of you. I thought he just wanted to reconnect. I stared at her, heart pounding in my ears. When did it change? She swallowed hard. 6 months ago. After my birthday. When you were out of town for that conference. He showed up. Said he just wanted to meet. Said he had something for you. She broke down into sobs again, rocking back and forth on her knees. And you slept with him, I said, my voice flat. She shook her head wildly. No, not then. I swear. He kissed me and I pushed him away, but after that he started threatening me. Threatening? She nodded, desperate. He said he'd tell you, make it sound like I pursued him, ruin me. So you gave in, I said. She covered her face with her hands. I stared down at her, the weight of it all settling over me. Travis, my brother, he hadn't just stolen my wife. He'd orchestrated the destruction of everything I'd built. And Emily had let him. Maybe out of fear. Maybe out of weakness. Maybe out of something darker I didn't want to admit. But none of that mattered now. Because now I knew this wasn't about heartbreak. It was about war. And I wasn't going to lose. Get up, I said coldly. She flinched. Get out. She opened her mouth to protest. But one look from me shut her up. She grabbed her purse with shaking hands and stumbled to the door. This isn't over, she whispered, a final tear sliding down her cheek. No, I agreed, my voice low and steady. It's just getting started. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood alone in the silence, the pieces of my life lying in ruins at my feet. But in that silence, something else stirred. Not grief, not rage, purpose. If Travis wanted a war, he was going to get one. And I'd burn down everything to make sure he lost. War is a funny thing. You picture it full of noise and fire and violence, but real war, the kind fought between brothers, between blood, is quiet. It's methodical. It's a game of inches. And I was done playing defense. The first step was information. I needed to know everything about Travis, where he lived, where he worked, who he trusted, if he had the audacity to dig his claws into my life. Then he must have built something of his own over the years. And if there was one thing Travis cared about even more than revenge, it was his reputation. Digging wasn't hard. Old contact from college. A few social media accounts he thought he'd hidden. A fake LinkedIn profile under a slightly altered name. Trevor Maxwell, CO, Apex Consulting. New name. Same arrogant smile in every profile photo. Turns out, dear brother had been busy. He wasn't just freeloading anymore. He had a company, contracts, clients, a whole shiny new life propped up by smoke and mirrors. It was perfect because it was vulnerable. I spent the next few days setting the trap. First, a series of anonymous tips sent to a few investigative journalists in town. Hints about Apex's shady financial practices, under-the-table dealings. Nothing concrete, yet just enough to get reporters sniffing. Second, I created a dummy corporation, a shell company with a website, a fake board of directors, glowing client testimonials, the whole package. It looked real because it needed to. Then I made my move. I approached Apex Consulting under the guise of Rising Sun Industries, claiming to be a tech startup looking for consultation on a multi-million-dollar expansion project. Travis bid immediately. Greedy bastard. Within 48 hours, I had a meeting scheduled with him. A strategy session at one of the city's high-end restaurants. I shaved the beard I'd been growing, threw on a tailored suit Emily had once bought for me, and walked into that restaurant a new man, a ghost from Travis's past. He was already there, sipping bourbon like he owned the place. He didn't recognize me at first, not until I sat down across from him and smiled. "Hello, Travis." His face went white. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The noise of the restaurant buzzed around us, but it felt like we were in a vacuum, a private battlefield. "Long time no see," I said casually. He tried to play it cool, forcing a laugh. "Wow, Caleb, look at you." "Yeah," I said. "Look at me." He set down his glass carefully. "What are you doing here?" "Just checking in on family," I said. "Seeing how you're doing." He smirked, but there was fear in his eyes. "Cut the crap." I leaned in. "You stole my wife. You tried to destroy my life." I let the words hang there. He shrugged. "You always had it coming." There it was. The pure, unfiltered hate he'd hidden under all those fake smiles over the years. "Maybe," I said, "but you forgot one thing, Travis." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm better at this than you are." Over the next week, everything I'd set in motion exploded. Anonymous leaks about Travis's illegal deals flooded local media. Clients pulled out. Contracts were canceled. His investors froze their assets. By Thursday, Apex Consulting was under investigation by the state attorney's office. By Friday, Travis's personal accounts were flagged for fraud. And Emily tried to reach out. Endless texts, calls, emails. I ignored them all. She wasn't my concern anymore. I wasn't coming to save her. No, she had chosen her side, and now she could live with it. The final blow came 2 weeks later. An envelope slipped under Travis's door. Inside, a single flash drive, footage of him and Emily, hotel rooms, secret meetings, all time-stamped, all tagged with location data. Anonymous tip for your fiancé's legal team. You see, Travis was engaged. New money, big family, socialites. They were planning the wedding of the season. Or they were, before that video made the rounds. The wedding was called off within 24 hours. His fiancé's father withdrew all investments from Apex and issued a public statement condemning gross personal misconduct. Travis was ruined, not just financially, socially, personally, completely, and I didn't shed a single tear. The last time I saw him, he was sitting alone at a bar downtown, pathetic, disheveled, nursing a cheap beer. He didn't see me walk past, didn't see the smile tugging at the corner of my mouth, didn't see the man he'd tried so hard to destroy, still standing, taller, stronger, freer, because Here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just burn down the past. It clears the ground for something new, something better, something mine. And as I stepped out into the cool night air, the weight of everything finally lifting, I realized something else. I never needed revenge to heal, but damn, it tasted sweet.